Welcome to Beyond Sport with Fiona Stewart. In this podcast, I chat to athletes, coaches, and industry professionals about their sporting journey and the lessons they've learned along the way. Guests range from Olympians to the everyday lover of sport, but the message stays the same. There is so much more to sport than what meets the eye. Make sure you hit subscribe on Apple Podcasts or follow on Spotify so you don't miss the release of each new episode. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at Beyond Sport with Fiona Stewart. I'd love to hear from you. This week's episode is with the incredible Aussie water polo player, Hannah Buckling. I caught up with Hannah while she was in quarantine after returning from her second Olympic Games in Tokyo. Hannah's career in water polo started off with her being a little uncoordinated but flourished as she was stubborn and determined to improve. Hannah has had an incredible career throughout her years as an Aussie Stinger, and in this episode she takes us through some of her highs and lows of that journey. Hannah touches on an important lesson that sport has taught her of being compassionate to others and yourself. And I think with what is going on in the world right now, it's a timely lesson to hear. I can't believe it's almost a year since I started this podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure to share the journeys and lessons that each one of our incredible guests have had through sport. I am beyond grateful to each one of you who tune in week after week. It's been amazing to connect with you over Instagram and see the community grow. To celebrate the lead up of the podcast turning 1, there's a special giveaway running this month, September 2021. We are giving away a limited edition Beyond Sport with Fiona Stewart mug so that you can enjoy your cup of coffee or tea whilst you listen to the podcast. All you have to do is open up the Apple Podcast app, that's the purple one with the white logo, go to Beyond Sport with Fiona Stewart, scroll on down to the ratings and review section and leave a review. Make sure you screenshot and send it to me via Instagram or Facebook so I can enter you into the draw. A review with just the stars will be worth 1 entry, and if you write a comment, you'll get 2 entries. Entries close at the end of the month, and the winner will be contacted by Sunday, the 3rd of October. For those of you who are listening on Spotify or another podcast platform, don't worry, you haven't missed out. There's something coming for you next month. That's enough from me. Let's hear from Hannah. You are a water polo player. How did you get into that?
It was offered as a sport at my high school. So I started actually quite late compared to a lot of my teammates. I didn't start playing until I was about 13 in year 7 of high school. Honestly, it was just something fun and new that I had never tried before. So I thought I would give it a go. Also, a lot of my friends were doing it, but I gave it a try and I was really bad at it. And my stubborn year 7 self was like, no, I refuse to be bad at this. And I think that kind of was the driver for me to train harder. I joined a club team, the SMB Breakers. So that was my first club team. And that kind of gave me my first real, I guess, opportunity to learn how to play properly and get involved in the wider water polo community. So.
Oh, awesome. Did you start off like from a swimming background? Because I always wonder how people get into water polo, like what the pathway is. Was it from swimming?
Yeah, I think it was because I was a good swimmer, but I wasn't a great swimmer. I was a good netballer, but I wasn't a great netballer. I was a good tennis player, but I wasn't a great tennis player. So I was kind of like, oh, let's try something new. And yeah, tried water polo.
Oh, that's so cool.
Bad. Really, really bad. Very not good.
Was there a specific moment other than once you got over the fact that you were competitive and you wanted to get good at the sport that you knew that you were really passionate about the sport?
So, I mean, given that now the Olympics is finished, I've been doing like a lot of self-reflection. This was my last Olympics, and so I'm retiring from professional sport now. So I actually was thinking about this, and I was wondering, and I remember vividly, it was under 16s. I think had been national championships or state championships. And I remember coming home and telling Mum, confident little Hannah, I'm going to play water polo for Australia one day. And I remember her looking at me going, sure. Totally unconvinced. But yeah, I think it was, from when I started playing at a club level, I just loved it. I think it was a mixture of the sport was just so incredibly challenging, but also the club was wonderful. I had amazing friends, a wonderful coach, Jamie Ryan, who saw a lot of potential and gave me a lot of opportunities. And I was just hooked, just hooked.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
regardless of where it took me, I was going to keep playing.
Yeah. Oh, and I love that yes, you wanted to represent Australia, but the fact that you were hooked on the sport regardless, and that you just loved it and the passion for it, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's a great sport. I do love it.
It's a sport that unfortunately, I'm a great swimmer, but I can't catch very well. So it's something that I tried a few times and just decided not to go ahead with because I couldn't catch very well. You were quite a really, I don't even know how to say it. You were a very strong junior. I know in 2011, you got the Australian Junior Female Water Polo Player of the Year. So was that kind of convincing towards that, playing for Australia?
Yeah, so I think it was under 17's youth squad that was my first opportunity to represent Australia, I think. I was born 91's squad and I was young for the squad. I think I was selected into the Australian squad from the New South Wales B team, kind of made it on potential and then got the opportunity to go overseas. But I'm pretty sure I just filmed most of the games and helped the girls train. And I was always on the cusp of that and then missed out on playing for my first Junior World Championships. So that would have been, the girls went away for that in 2009. And I kind of missed out on that opportunity. Was super disappointed, but also completely understood the decision. I wasn't good enough to be selected. And that was a bit of a turning point. I decided, you know what, I'm going to make the next Junior World Championships, which was in 2011.
Yeah.
I'm going to work on all of the things, all of the reasons why I was, not selected. And yeah, that was kind of like the first time that I really thought that it was a potential to play for Australia for junior water polo. But strangely, even at the time, I never thought I would be able to go to an Olympics.
Oh, why was that?
I don't know. I think it was hard for me to transfer playing junior water polo into a senior water polo level.
Mm-hmm.
I think there were already girls in my junior Australian team who were involved in the senior national team. But it was, in 2011, after that Junior World Championships, having been selected and going away. And we won a bronze medal, which was amazing, that the senior national team coach, Greg McFadden, called and asked if I wanted to join the girls in their preparation for the London Olympics.
That's amazing.
So I was actually planning on quitting the sport after the junior water polo because I didn't think that senior water polo was an option. And then I had to totally reconfigure my thought process about everything, which I'm really glad I did.
Yes, definitely. So did you think that coach, he called you, did you think that, London could be a thing, or were you kind of like, oh, I'll just maybe be one of the junior kids on the team, I guess, and work my way up maybe for more senior games later on?
Definitely the latter. So I took it as an incredible opportunity to learn the systems, to learn from some of the more senior girls who wouldn't necessarily be around for the next cycle, and just to kind of improve my water polo in the hopes of going to the Rio Olympics.
Yeah, which you did do, which is amazing. And you've just got back from Tokyo, so we can touch on those later. But is there any other between London and Rio significant milestones, either wins, losses, injuries that have happened?
Well, I mean, we actually won a silver medal at the World Championships in 2013, which was an incredible experience, and something that you never forget. I think the Rio cycle was tumultuous, but in general, I held together relatively well. A few injuries and niggles that are normal for elite sports people, but nothing of note, really. I think that cycle was very much for me water polo focused. I did part-time uni, finished off my science undergraduate degree, and while I got into medicine, during that time I deferred beginning my course until after the Olympics. So I was very, very water polo focused at the time.
Oh, awesome. And how did you go in Rio? I know there was a little bit of an injury in there, but how did you feel at your first Olympic Games?
I think Rio is such a mixed bag of emotions. Actually, to be honest, Tokyo also a mixed bag of emotions. Because there's so much pride and joy in being able to represent your country in an Olympics. But then also there's that element of being an elite athlete and also being a part of a team that has the potential to win a medal and then falling short of that. I think it makes it difficult to kind of marry the two experiences because they're so different. Yeah, so the injury you're referring to in our round game against Brazil, I was punched in the face and fractured my eye socket. And so then I was ruled out of playing. And then we lost in our quarterfinal in a penalty shootout. But that's just kind of the Olympics. It's so rare that all of the hard work ends up accumulating in a medal because every team that's there, every single athlete that's there has done the same amount of hard work. There's so much else that goes into it, like injuries and referees and timing and luck. And so I think at the time I found that really hard because in my mind, because we had the potential to, and we'd done all the hard work, that it would just kind of, and then it would be the happy ending that we all thought it would be.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't. And so I think that took me a really long time to come to terms with.
Yeah. How did you overcome that? Because I've never in that elite arena, but I've been in situations where I came from a swimming background where I'd swim a race and I knew that I'd done the work. I knew that I could swim the time and I wouldn't do it. And it might have been, to qualify for nationals or to qualify for a final or something. And I didn't do it and I would be gutted and I'd, cry and I'd have to pick yourself back up. How did you feel during that time?
I think in the Rio Olympics, I was numb. I probably wasn't receiving the kind of psychological support that I then have since reached out for. So yeah, kind of numb and compartmentalized and didn't really deal with it. So it wasn't really actually until this Olympic cycle and kind of connecting through the AIS Mental Health Referral Network and connecting with the psychologist that I was kind of able to unpack all of that, as well as so many other things that come with elite sport. But yeah, so then, then going to Tokyo and having not a similar experience in the sense of the injury, but a similar experience in terms of not achieving the goal. I think I've been far better prepared to cope with the outcome. Doesn't make it any easier. It's still emotional and it's still heartbreaking, but it's, I guess, I'm better placed to deal with it now.
Yeah, you've got that steady base to work on rather than maybe back with Rio, you didn't have that foundation to deal with it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And kind of mental health skills and, everything that comes with kind of psych and psych support. So
yeah. And in that, like the Olympic cycles are usually in 4-year blocks, but this one obviously was in 5. Like in that 5 years, like what was that like? what happened in that 5 years?
Okay. Well, so that 5 years was, it was a big 5 years.
Yeah.
I started medicine in 2017. And so I did 2 years where I was trying to balance studying and training and competing. I didn't sleep much in those 2 years. I just was sleepwalking through most of it. But also I was doing 2 things that I was so passionate about. And that for me was really special. I think having medicine and pursuing my outside of water polo career, I think gave me a lot of perspective on the water polo. And then I think that maintaining the water polo helped me in terms of appreciating the medicine more.
Yeah.
And so while I never slept and it was really quite difficult, I actually really enjoyed those 2 years. They were challenging, but, I had a supportive coach and a supportive team. So yeah, I was really, really lucky to be able to do both. And then in 2019, then I moving into my third and fourth year of medicine, which are all clinically based. So you have to be face-to-face in the hospital. I then deferred and had planned on deferring until after the Olympics, going back in 2021. I went overseas to Greece and had the opportunity to go play in like the Greek League and the European League. And so that was amazing. We had a world championships, won a bronze medal.
Wow.
And then, we were all ready to kind of roll into 2020. Oh, I also had shoulder surgery. There was also a lot of downsides,
Yeah. Did you have injuries?
Some like chronic ongoing things. And then I had a shoulder injury that started midway through 2019 that I ended up having surgery on at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Had kind of like just recovered from that, and then COVID hit.
Yay.
And then everything just kind of all of a sudden went on pause. We didn't know if the Olympics was going to go ahead. I had deferred uni, and then I had to try and reorganize that. But I mean, it all worked out in the end. I was pretty lucky. The university let me go back to studying in May of 2020. And so I nearly completed a whole year of study, bar 4 weeks, which I'm going to do when I get out of quarantine. And then I'll sit my exams and complete third year. So yeah, it all worked out, but it was big. It was a big 5 years.
Yeah, it sounds like a big 5 years. Was the shoulder injury like a rotator cuff kind of thing?
No, actually it was. It's called distal clavicular osteolysis. So essentially the end of your collarbone, where it's attached to your shoulder, the bone starts to disintegrate.
Oh.
It is normally like, I think rugby players and weightlifters get it, and they're not really sure what the pathophysiology is. They think it's just maybe like impact causes the bone formation and destruction, balance, I guess, goes out of whack. But yeah, so strange that it's a water polo thing. I think it must be because we do a lot of grappling and wrestling, but one of the other members of my team has also had it. So, but the surgery went great. And, we were training down as AIS at the time, which I think was pretty lucky. So you have all of the medical services, all the physiotherapy, it's all on site. And yeah, they took really good care of me. So.
Oh, that's awesome that you were able to, overcome it.
It was tough. I did a lot of freestyle kick. I hate freestyle kick. But yeah.
Water polo, you do the egg beater underwater. In my very limited knowledge of water polo, but what's your training like in that time? Like, do you do like laps of swimming, or is it more like, we call it polo swimming and swimming where you swim freestyle with your head out of the water? Is that what you do?
Yeah, that's what we do. So I think our training in general, which I think is another reason why I love the sport so much, is that I'm not sure I don't think I'd have the concentration just to do swimming and just swim. We have a mixture of, we do swim sets, we do leg work sets, which can involve kind of mobility leg work, so moving over your legs and blocking, but it can also involve being attached to a stretchy cord on the side of the pool and doing resistance, as well as doing leg work with a weight vest on. We also do like skills and drills, so that involves passing, as well as other kind of ball skills in the water. And then there's also the tactical element of it, where we are in front of goals and move through tactics. And then we also lift weights outside of the pool.
That's
so it's a big
cool
mix of training, which is nice.
Yeah. So it's not just like, because swimming, we're lucky we get to, do different types of swim sets, but they're all just up and down the pool, to be honest. Sometimes we'd get really lucky and we could do vertical kick sets or like something like that, which
that's my nightmare. Vertical freestyle kick, I will be at the bottom of the pool.
We had to do vertical dolphin kick because that's the one you push off the wall with. But yeah, I guess you guys were really lucky that you were in a sport that you could kind of vary it up a little bit more than just different types of swim sets. So that's awesome.
Yeah, which is good. But yeah, after shoulder surgery, obviously I'm limited to just doing kicking. So my nightmare. I hate freestyle kick.
Did you improve throughout that time? Like, were you able to go little gains? Yeah,
I was pretty proud of myself. Yeah. I think I went from being the slowest in the team to the second slowest in the team.
Well done. Well worth it. That shoulder injury did you good. So fast forwarding a little bit to Tokyo. So what was your prep like then obviously you're kind of trying to juggle a little bit of medicine or like your placements and, you know, preparing for the games. What was that like?
I think I was pretty lucky in the sense that it didn't overlap too much because of COVID. Throughout COVID, we did a lot of our own training, and then we were then limited to state-based training, and that I was able to fit in around study. And then in January, I finished up my study. End of January, yeah. And that coincided with the group all meeting up on the Sunshine Coast. And so we spent the 6 months of this year, 6 months of this year based on the Sunshine Coast all training together, which was amazing, having the whole squad back together again. So
yeah, that's awesome.
I
know
what uni's been on pause for that whole time. So.
Yeah, with some other sports, they couldn't get, I guess it's different because you're a team sport, but they couldn't get like the teams together for camps and stuff because of all the border closures this year. So it's really cool that you were all based in Sunshine Coast together.
Yeah, it was great. I think a couple of the Melbourne girls had a really tough time because they couldn't go home and visit family. And so, you know, it was, a bit all over. And even Sydney, we kind of evacuated Sydney as soon as the kind of COVID, a couple of cases were there. The call was made that we left. And then instead of being able to return back before we left for Tokyo, we were instead just went straight up to Cairns. And, you know, so we haven't seen our families in over 2 months, but
hopefully soon. How did you feel, I guess, going into your second Olympics? You said you felt more kind of mentally equipped to deal with the result, but were you feeling like you wanted to, you know, enjoy it more? Were you wanting to, how did you feel?
I think the second Olympics is actually such a lovely position to be in. I mean, incredibly privileged position to be in, to have the opportunity to go to 2 Olympics. But I think the first Olympics, I put so much, not that I didn't put any pressure on myself this time. In general, I put a lot of pressure on myself all the time. But I think on the first in Rio, I put a lot of pressure on myself to the point where I was stressed about performance, to the point where I didn't really let myself appreciate how incredible it was to just be there.
Yeah.
And I think this time around, I went in with the intention of absorbing it all, of appreciating it for not just the outcome, but for all of the other incredible things, as well as the fact that it's being put on in the middle of a pandemic, which I think made it even more special. So, I think having the experience, perhaps the maturity to be a bit more comfortable in myself as a player, to then be able to appreciate all the other things, I think it's really, really special.
Yeah. And what were some of your favorite things of, you know, Tokyo?
I think one of them was just like being able to walk into the competition pool for the first time and be able to see the Olympic rings on, you know, the walls and on pool deck, and not be kind of crippled by sickening fear, but be really, really excited and have that be a motivating thing was really special. Being a part of the Australian Olympic team is really special, and kind of being able to meet other Australian athletes and, you know, go and have the opening ceremony. We didn't get to go to the opening ceremony, but instead we did our own little mini ceremony and parade, and that was incredibly special. Yeah, and just like the little things like, I don't know, line up and singing the national anthem.
Yeah.
That got me. I think I cried in most of them.
So do you do that before every single game? Yeah. Oh, that's really special. And the pride you'd have to be an Australian is, that would be the pinnacle at that moment.
Yeah. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. And we've spoken a little bit about, you know, your studying and your career into medicine, but can you tell us about the benefit sports provided you as an individual that's transferred over to other avenues of your life? So not water polo Hannah, but general daily life Hannah.
Regular Hannah.
Yes.
I think sport, it promotes a healthy lifestyle. I think that's the obvious one that everybody knows. It has given me an appreciation for and an enjoyment of exercise that I know that will continue for the rest of my life, which is great.
Yeah.
But I think sport is, I don't know where to start. There are so many things. We'll start with some of the, or perhaps more obvious ones, in the sense of time management is a huge one.
Mm-hmm.
I love the saying, if you need something done quickly, give it to a busy person.
Yes.
Because busy people get stuff done. And that is incredibly true of me. When I have more on, I'm way more productive.
Yeah.
So I think my time management skills, super practical and somewhat simple, but I think are out of this world because of water polo. And because you're doing two things that you love, you want to make time for both of them. And so you just kind of learn how to. Teamwork, I think, is another one. And the beauty of team sport is that you have to, you're not always going to be in teams of people that you like. You're not always going to have coaches that you like. You're not always going to have support staff that you like, but you know that you respect them enough to work with them, and you know that you're all working towards the same goal. And so I think that that's been a really good thing for me over the last few years, over my whole water polo career, is kind of managing different personalities and learning to appreciate different people for what they bring to the team, because not everyone's going to be a cookie cutter version of each other.
Yeah.
And I think that's also like the brilliant part about it. Resilience.
Mm-hmm.
And another one. I've got so many. It's taught me so many things, so many life skills, but resilience, I think, is a huge one. I think water polo and sport in general is amazing, and it provides so many opportunities for success, but in doing so also has so many opportunities for failure.
Mm-hmm.
Non-selection, not being able to, losing games, not be even small day-to-day things like not being able to perform a certain skill, or not understanding a certain play, or continually making mistakes in training and in games as you're learning. I think being able to bounce back from injury, being able to bounce back from, time out from the water because of other things. I think water polo has provided me with so many hurdles, and I'm not trying to sound like woe is me. This is just normal life. Life sometimes throws you curveballs, but the ability to trust yourself and to have confidence enough to then be brave and bounce back and try again is, one of the most special things that water polo has given me.
Is there a lesson that you've learned along the way that you'd either want to share to someone else or share to, yourself when you were younger?
I think one of the more recent things that I've learned that I think is for me, the most important thing that water polo has taught me is to be compassionate, not just to other people, but also to myself. And in doing so, understanding that my worth and others' worth is not about their achievements, and it's not about the things that, the tick boxes, but instead it's kind of about their character and who they are as a person and how they treat other people. And I think that's like the most important part of sport. That's the most precious thing that I will take away from sport, is that, I think recently times have been tough and everyone's been going through everyone's got their own battles. And I think what I've taken away from particularly the last 18 months is learning to be compassionate for other people and what they're going through, and understanding that nobody is not trying to do things wrong. Nobody is trying to make mistakes. Everyone's just trying their best. And also taking that same approach and applying that to myself is, I think that to me is the biggest thing that sport has taught me, and something that I hope I will take into every other aspect of my life, whether that be work or with friends and family. And
I think that's so important and really valuable at the moment, like especially like you said, everyone's going through something, and who are we to sit there and judge how they're handling something when they might just be doing the best they can. And to sit back and remind yourself in sport, whether they've missed catching the ball or didn't defend the goal or whatever it was, or in life, that they are just doing the best they can with what they have is, something really, really important. I like that.
Yeah, it's a new thing, but I'm like, really, that's the one thing that I'm holding on to.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And when you were saying that, it brought a quote to my head, and it's, I probably butcher it, but it's something like, you won't remember what people do, but you'll remember how they make you feel. And that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So, yeah, and I think that, I mean, people wouldn't necessarily think that sport would do that, because it is often so cutthroat, and it is often so, it is so performance based.
Mm-hmm.
But I think particularly off the back of not necessarily achieving our goal, but having given everything that we possibly could to achieving it and still falling short, a really important thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, and I think even just as Australians, I know we're so immensely proud of, yes, the people who maybe medaled, but every single Aussie that made it to Tokyo, like even the ones who just missed out, like we're so proud that you guys were able to, I guess you stepped up and you were able to perform in the middle of a global pandemic, and you put so many things on hold. Like you said before, you haven't seen your family in months, and you did that to represent us, like your country. And that in itself is so beautiful and something to be so proud of.
Thank you. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So have you been involved in a project where sport has been used as a tool to develop the community?
I was actually thinking about this. I mean, I guess I haven't necessarily been involved in a project per se, but I guess being still a part of the water polo community and seeing the way that the water polo community has kind of come together around these Olympic Games has kind of reminded me of the importance of like grassroots sport. I think is just so incredible. So the number of young girls from, Winona, my high school, or from SMB Breakers, my junior water polo club, who have reached out, or I've seen that they've been watching games online, has just been amazing, and something really special, kind of, again, going on what we were discussing before. So many of these young girls, like girls as young as 10, sending messages saying, I know that you came fifth and it wasn't the result that you wanted, but we are all still proud of you anyway. Like, tearing up. That to me, and promoting that kind of approach to elite sport at this grassroots level, I think is really, really, really special.
Yeah.
And while it's not necessarily a project per se, but I think in general, I think it's been a wonderful thing that the water polo community has been promoting. So
yeah, that's fantastic. And these girls, that they are as young as 10, as you say, and they're saying that we're still proud of you, and they are, that they would love if you got a medal and got onto the podium, but they're just as proud anyway. And they're probably going to be proud seeing you guys all bounce back. Like, I know it's only it's less than 2 weeks since your last game, and all the feelings are really raw, and you're allowed to feel everything. But yeah, that they're going to be so proud when you guys stand up. Not so much, but the team or the community stand back up and go and play their next game, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. So I think, that's a really kind of like special part of the water polo community, and something that I'm really proud to be a part of.
Yeah. And you're inspiring that next generation, which is really special.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So in saying that, I guess this question, like you've said, the last 18 months have been quite tricky for everyone. And it's kind of, even when we didn't know that Tokyo was going to go ahead, and, puts a limbo on a lot of things. But where do you see the future of sport? It's loaded. It's a loaded question.
It is loaded, isn't it? I'd love to see sport participation for males to females go to 50-50. That's what I would love. And I would love to see women's professional sport match men's professional sport. I think gender equality in sport would be enormous, because you see all these incredible young female sport just doesn't retain the same number that men's sport does. And so I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
Even just not at an elite level, even just at, social netball, social water polo. I think that's really important. Not just because of the health benefits, but also because of the community that it creates. And the opportunities to meet people who are outside of your normal social circle, outside of work. And then, so when you sent through these questions, I was thinking about this, and I think the first thing that I was like, oh, it'd be great if water polo could be professional.
Mm-hmm.
And then I really thought about it, and I don't think it needs to be, in order to facilitate the kind of benefits that I think are important.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be amazing if women and men in Australia could play water polo professionally and have that be their career. But I think, as I mentioned earlier, I think it's been really great for me that it's not been professional, because it's meant that I have had the opportunity to pursue things outside of sport, which has also been really, really important for kind of self-development and growth and, learning skill sets that are not just, so narrow-minded. So yeah, that's not going to be one of my things. But just, I think like gender equality in sport would be great. And seeing young girls playing sport and continuing to play sport, doing it because it's fun.
Yeah, I really like that. And I remember back at uni, we did a study about the dropout rate and why, because there's a dropout rate both for males and females. Like, it might not be equal, but there is a dropout around that end of high school period, early 20s, because you become an adult and there's, all these exciting things about becoming an adult. But there's actually a high, and these stats are probably 5, 6, 7 years old by now, and I haven't looked at them recently, but males usually go back to sport, and it's the females that don't. And it's that, dad might play footy or cricket with the local footy and cricket club, but mum has to look after the kids. And it's that prioritizing who gets to play sport or who gets to, participate in their sport. And it's not at all saying that it's, not changing. I think it is starting to change. Like, I work out of a gym. I'm seeing that, that our mum and dad's literally tag teaming. I see them swap over the children in the hallways, and it makes me so happy.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is that, I guess, once you hit that 30-ish age group, once you're over that early adult life, then getting those females back into sport, even if they took a little break, getting them back involved.
Yeah, I think it's really important. And like, I see so many of my friends playing, social touch, mixed touch, a few friends down in Melbourne playing social AFL. They just love it.
Yeah.
And the community that they're a part of as a consequence, I think has just been, has brought them so much joy. So it'd love to see as many women as possible get that as well.
Yeah, 100%, definitely. And thank you so much for taking your time and speaking to me and opening up and being, vulnerable about how you're feeling post Tokyo, but also like reflecting on such an incredible career. Like, congratulations. It's been amazing.
Thank you so much, Fiona. Thank you for having me. I think, what you're doing, I think this podcast is just an amazing thing. And I think you're promoting some wonderful values, and so really, really happy to be a part of it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Beyond Sport with Fiona Stewart. This is a completely independent podcast that has been created to share the journey and lessons of top-level sporting professionals, but also your everyday lover of sport. If you liked this podcast, I'd really appreciate if you could leave a review and share it with someone who you think would also enjoy it. Until next time.